ever get that feeling like some leaders and companies, I don't know, they just have this pull, like they inspire a level of loyalty that almost seems, I don't know, irrational.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, today we're diving deep into Simon Sinek's Start With Why to try to figure out what it is that sets them apart.
Okay.
How they inspire action and create those truly die-hard fans. You know what I mean?
It's funny you should say that because one of the things Sinek points out,
Yeah.
he's not just giving us like tips and tricks.
Right.
He actually reveals this almost like a fundamental pattern he sees in how truly great leaders inspire. And he calls it the golden circle.
Okay, the golden circle.
Yeah.
So what is this golden circle all about? What's the deal with that?
Well, at the very center, you've got the WHY.
Okay.
This is like the purpose, the belief, the reason a company or a leader exists in the first place.
Okay, got it.
Then you have HLW, so those actions they take to really live out that WHY. And finally, there's what? So the actual tangible results, right?
Yeah.
You know, your product, services, or marketing.
So I think I see where you're going with this. So most companies tend to communicate, like, starting with what they do, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like think about
Yeah.
think about when you're bombarded with specs and features.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been shopping for like a TV?
Oh, yeah. All the time. It's overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. That's that outside-in communication,
Okay.
leading with the what.
Yeah.
But those inspiring leaders and companies, they kind of flip the script.
Okay.
They go from the inside out, starting with that WHY.
It's like Apple, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Think different.
yeah,
They weren't just selling computers, they were selling a belief,
exactly.
an idea.
And the thing is, there's actually a biological reason why this works.
Yes.
See, the WHY goes right to our limbic brain. It's the part that handles, like, feelings and decision-making.
Ah, okay.
So it explains, you know, like those gut feelings.
Right.
Why we're drawn to certain brands, even if we can't really put it into words.
So it's almost like you're saying logic and specs alone
Yeah,
aren't going to get you that true loyalty, that deep connection.
that's it.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies get this wrong. And then they resort to, like, manipulations. You know, constant price drops, fear tactics, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that might work for a bit,
Right.
but they don't build that genuine loyalty. And over time, they can actually cost more.
Didn't Sinek use
Yeah.
General Motors as an example of this?
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're, like, the perfect example. So, for years, right, GM's on top of the auto industry.
Right.
But then they start relying heavily on these cashback incentives.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
they basically create this whole customer base that's addicted to discounts, these cashback junkies, as Sinek calls them.
Right.
And then, of course, the market changes. We've got things like the 2008 oil crisis.
Yeah.
And GM, well, they're vulnerable because their whole sales strategy is built on these manipulations.
It's almost like they train their customers to, like, wait for a deal, not to really connect with the brand itself.
Exactly.
That's got to be a tough lesson to learn.
It is a tough lesson. It really highlights those dangers of manipulation.
Yeah.
You might get the transaction, but you're not going to get that long-term loyalty.
Right. Right.
In fact, you might even be eroding that trust.
Yeah.
And it creates stress, you know, for both the company and the consumer.
So, okay, if manipulation's off the table,
Yeah.
how do we find those loyal customers, our tribe, as they say, who
Yeah.
really believe in what we believe in?
Well, you know, think back to Dr. Seuss, the Sneetches.
Okay.
Remember those creatures obsessed with the stars on their bellies?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a perfect illustration of our need to belong, right?
He's like, we're hardwired to be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah,
To connect with people who share our values.
exactly. And that's where the magic happens. When a company can actually communicate their WHY, it taps into that powerful need. People aren't just buying a product, they're buying into an idea, a community, a sense of belonging.
It's like Harley Davidson, right?
Oh, perfect example.
People get Harley tattoos.
I know.
They're not just devoted to the bikes, they're devoted to the lifestyle.
To what it represents.
Yeah. And that feeling of belonging, of being part of something you truly believe in, I mean, that's powerful stuff.
Oh, it's incredibly powerful. And that's really what fuels those tipping points, you know?
Like Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where an idea just takes off, becomes mainstream.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is driven by word of mouth, those personal recommendations from people we trust.
Right. Right.
But to get to that point, you need more than just that small group of early adopters.
So how do you go from, like, that niche following to like mass market success. How do you cross that chasm?
Well, that's where something called the law of diffusion of innovations comes in. Right. It kind of lays out how an innovation spreads through a population. So first, you've got those innovators, right? Always the first to try new things.
Yeah.
You've got the early adopters, the trendsetters.
And I'm guessing most of us, your average person is the early majority, right?
Exactly. The early majority kind of wants some proof, right, that something works.
Yeah.
Then you've got the late majority and finally the laggards who,
they don't want to change.
they resist until they absolutely have to.
Yeah.
But the big takeaway here, to reach mass market, you've got to bridge the gap between those early adopters
Right.
and the early majority.
And that's about trust, right? Like the early majority, they need to hear it from someone they trust before they jump in.
You got it. I mean, think about it. You might be swayed by a product's specs, but what really convinces you is when a friend's like, dude, you have to get this. It's amazing.
Right. It's like a book recommendation, right? Like from a friend. It just means more.
It means so much more. That personal connection is everything. Now, a company that struggled with this was actually TiVo.
Oh, okay.
They had a revolutionary product, this DVR, ahead of its time.
Right.
But they didn't get that WHY across.
Yeah.
They were too focused on the tech stuff, not the deeper desire they were fulfilling.
So they were kind of stuck with just those tech enthusiasts, those early adopters, but they couldn't break into the mainstream.
They couldn't quite get there. They had the what and the hey how W, but the WHY got lost along the way.
It's interesting, though. They weren't connecting on that emotional level.
They weren't. Now, to effectively, scale your WHY to get more people on board, it boils down to three things: clarity, discipline, and consistency.
So you need a clear WHY.
Yes.
And the discipline to actually stick to it.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything you do has to reflect, has to reinforce that WHY. Southwest Airlines is a great example of this. They're known for putting their employees first. And you see this in everything they do.
Yeah, didn't their CEO work alongside baggage handlers at some point?
Exactly. And it's not just a PR stunt. It's a testament to their commitment to their employees.
Yeah.
They've got that on-time bonus system, right?
That's right.
Everyone wins if the flights are on time. It creates that shared purpose.
It's like they're putting their money where their mouth is, right?
They are.
Their actions match their words.
Totally. Because if there's that disconnect, between what you're saying and what you're doing, that's when you run into problems.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to what Sinek calls the split. So this split, it's what happens when a company kind of loses sight of that WHY.
Right.
And it often happens as they grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, decisions are driven by data, by spreadsheets, short-term profits, instead of that original inspiring purpose.
It's almost like they're losing their soul,
Right.
That passion, that inspiration that got them going in the first place.
That's a great way to put it. And Walmart's a perfect example of this. Sam Walton, the founder, he truly believed in people, taking care of his employees, customers, the community.
So it wasn't just about low prices.
Right.
It was about values.
Exactly. But after he passed away, the company's actions, they started to drift from that original WHY.
Mm-hmm.
There were scandals, lawsuits over labor practices, a decline in customer trust. It's that danger of the split, you see.
Yeah.
Even a company built on a strong WHY can lose its way if it's not nurtured.
So how do you prevent that? I mean, how do you keep that WHY alive?
Well, that's where leadership becomes absolutely critical.
Okay.
The leader, you see, they become this living, breathing embodiment of the WHY.
Right.
Think about Bill Gates at Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even with all the change that company went through, his presence kept that WHY alive.
Okay, so the leader's almost like a torchbearer,
Yeah.
constantly reminding everyone, WHY, they do what they do.
Exactly. And then when that leader's gone, it can create a void. Look what happened when Steve Jobs left Apple.
Yeah, that's true.
They lost their focus.
They did.
Until he came back.
Yeah.
It shows just how crucial that leader's role is, keeping the WHY front and center.
It's almost like it's not just about hitting those numbers.
Right.
Achieving goals.
Right.
It's about that deeper purpose.
Absolutely.
And letting it guide every decision you make.
That's how you build a lasting legacy.
Yeah.
Finding leaders who embody the WHY, building systems that reinforce it, reminding everyone what they're working towards and why it matters.
Okay.
That's like Costco, for example.
Yeah.
Their focus on employees, ethical practices, they're carrying the torch of that values-driven approach.
They're not just talking about it, they're actually doing it.
That's what matters. And that authenticity, that's what resonates with people.
Okay, I get the WH,
Yeah.
but how do you actually do it? Like, is there a specific formula for putting this golden circle into practice?
Well, there's no, magic formula. It's about finding your authentic WHY
Right.
and then making sure everything you do aligns with it.
It's like a gut check almost.
Yeah, it is.
Does this decision, this product, this marketing campaign, does it feel right?
That's it. Sinek actually calls it the celery test.
Okay. The celery test? What's that?
So imagine you're at the grocery store trying to be healthy, right?
Right.
You've got your list. Rice milk, celery, kale, all those good things.
Yeah, but then you see the chocolate cake.
Exactly. It's tempting, but not exactly healthy. Now, if you're clear about your WHY, your commitment to healthy eating, you stick with the celery. You might indulge sometimes, but it's not part of your core values.
So every decision, like for a company,
Yeah.
it should pass the celery test.
Yeah. It's got to bring the WHY to life, not distract from it.
I like it.
If they fail the celery test, it creates confusion. Volkswagen's a good example. They're known for those reliable, affordable cars, right?
Yeah.
But then they released the Phaeton, this luxury model.
Didn't that, totally bomb?
It did. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't what people loved about Volkswagen. It failed the celery test. They should have created a separate brand, like Toyota did with Lexus.
Right. To keep things consistent.
Exactly, to maintain that clarity of purpose.
So it's all about consistency, right?
Yeah.
You can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk.
That's where companies get tripped up. They have a great WHY, but then they make decisions based on, short-term gains, fleeting trends, and the message gets muddled.
It's like that friend who always talks about wanting to travel the world but never books a flight.
Exactly.
Their actions don't match their words.
That lack of alignment erodes trust. People can tell when you're not being authentic.
Okay, so how do you communicate that WHY? In a way that really resonates. It's not like you can just shout it from the rooftop.
It's about storytelling.
Yeah.
Every interaction, every product, every marketing campaign.
Okay.
It's an opportunity to tell that story.
Show people why you exist.
Yes. Weave that WHY into everything you do. Make it the foundation of your brand.
It's like, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. If you're with us, come along for the ride.
And that's powerful.
Yeah.
They're not just selling products. They're selling a belief system.
Yeah.
A community.
So it's not enough to just have a good product or service.
Right.
You have to inspire people.
You got it.
You have to connect on that deeper level.
Exactly.
And it all starts with WHY.
And, if you can do that,
Yeah.
find your WHY,
Yeah.
clarify it, communicate it, you can achieve incredible things. You can build that loyal following, create a movement,
Right.
even make a real impact.
So what does all this mean for our listener today? I mean, how can they apply these insights, from start with why to their own work or even just their personal lives?
Well, it starts with figuring out your own WHY, right?
Yeah.
What's your purpose? What are those values that drive you? What kind of impact do you want to make?
Okay.
Once you're clear on that,
Yeah.
you can start to align your actions, your decisions with that WHY.
It's about finding that North Star,
It is.
that thing that guides you.
And it's not just for companies, right? Individuals, we all have a WHY. Think about the most inspiring people you know. I bet they're driven by a really deep sense of purpose.
It's like Ron Bruder,
Oh, yeah, good one.
the guy who started Education for Employment.
Yeah.
He saw a problem and he had this drive to fix it,
He's totally living his WHY.
Yeah.
And that passion, it's contagious. It inspires other people to get involved, to make a difference.
So it's like, it doesn't matter if you're, leading a company or a team or just trying to live a better life.
Yeah.
It starts with finding your WHY.
It does.
And once you've got it, don't be afraid to share it.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
Communicate it, with passion,
Yeah.
with authenticity, and you'll be surprised what you can achieve.
Well, there you have it. We've explored this idea of WHY, how it can transform, not just businesses but lives.
Right.
If you're ready to dive even deeper to really unlock the potential of this concept,
Yeah.
I highly recommend, checking out Simon Sinek's Start with Why.
It's a fantastic book.
It really is. It can, change the way you think about leadership, motivation, success.
Look.
And remember, it's not just about what you do.
No.
It's about why you do it.
Start with WHY.
Start with WHY.
And the rest will follow.
And the rest will follow.